The next item is the Board of Education decision on unresolved negotiated issues. It is an action item, and I will ask for a motion at this time.
I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 approve the resolution regarding the master contracts and reflects the board's position at the end of the mediation on October 10th, 2014.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Some discussion, please. Ms. Solis.
So this has been a tough situation. As a new board member, I've come on and been critical of existing board members, administration, and also stuff that's gone on in the schools. This isn't anything that's taken lightly. We understand that our kiddos are at stake, people's livelihoods are at stake, and what I would say is that we have a situation where we are at a tipping point. We have a difference that's going on in our community when it comes to our kiddos, when it comes to people within the school, when it comes to people within the community, breaking down barriers, making sure our kiddos have more opportunities, making sure that we as community members are working better together, blended learning. We have a lot of things on the line right now. We also have some scary stuff coming up. We have CMAS, which is going to be making some big changes. We also have legislation that's going to be making some big changes for our teachers. We have a lot at stake. And it really is going to take all of us together to get through the highs and the lows and getting Greeley and our district in a place that it's never been before. I do understand that morale has been low. I have had those discussions with teachers. I've had it with community members, which is exactly why I chose to run. I knew that some changes needed to be made, and I'm willing to put my name, my time on the line to make sure that those changes are done. I'm dedicating 4 years of my life to making sure that that is followed through, and I will continue to do that.
Thank you. Dr. Richard.
Well, I want to express my appreciation to both of the negotiating teams for the work on the contract negotiations. We work best when we work for a common purpose, and that is to provide a quality education to every student in District 6. I also want to thank the teachers who every day work with our students and educate our students. As a board, it's our responsibility to live within our means, to pass a budget using the resources allocated to education by the legislature and dispersed according to the 1994 education funding formula. Using those dollars, we need to take care of our buildings and our infrastructure, provide the programs that are needed and desired by our students, and pay the salaries and benefits to teachers, staff, and administrators. And each year, that challenge grows. This last year, we saw a $1 million increase just in health insurance costs alone. Now, I should point out that around us, we see the effects of an improving economy and the impact of the oil and gas industry. What's important to understand is that those revenues that are collected by the city and the county do not flow directly through to our school district. We don't see that kind of increase. Our resources are determined by the state funding formula, which we recognize as being outdated and inequitable. I think it's important to understand the impact of the contract negotiations as part of the district budget. To provide the 1.5 to the base and another 0.5 for horizontal advancement, to maintain current health insurance benefits with no increased cost to teachers, and to pay the additional 0.9% increase for PERA, the board will be reaching into reserves for $2 million. The current offer is not a break-even proposal. It actually requires deficit spending to be able to meet these conditions. This is not a first-time dip into the savings account either. Since the recession and the imposition of the negative factor on the state education funding formula, this will be the third time in a row that boards have used reserves to balance the budget. It is not difficult to see that this is an unsustainable course. There are only so many times that you can withdraw from your savings account. I believe that this is the best offer that we can make at this time. Am I happy with it? No. But I think it's a fair offer, and I will be voting to support the motion.
Mr. Lydiak, do you wish to make a comment from where you are at this point, since you otherwise can't get your name illuminated?
Yes, thank you, President DeWitt. And I know the communications or connections may not be real good, so I'll keep my statement short, but I just want to know, or let the teachers know, that I do sincerely appreciate and truly value the work that our teachers do for students in District 6. And while we, the Board of Education, have gladly supported 2 previous years of very significant employee compensation increases, the concern is that this year's budget, as outlined and illustrated in Dr. Richards' statement, is that this is the 3rd year in a row of deficit or reserve spending to help support an increase in pay for our teacher staff. It's a fiscal model that we can't continue to support. So I hope and will advocate that as the state revenues continue to increase, that our state legislators will reduce or eliminate the negative factor to help bring back educational funding to the level that our students need and deserve, and that we can truly better compensate our incredibly hardworking and talented teachers in the future.
Thank you. Would you tell us what time it is where you are, please, Mr. Lydiak?
Oh, it's only 3:40 a.m.
Thank you for waking up and making your voice heard tonight. I appreciate it as the rest of us do. And you came through loud and clear. Thank you. Mr. Hafley.
First of all, I'd like to thank all the educators. I know that your passion, hard work, and efforts are the most important things to our students' successes. I am sad for both sides that it's become adversarial and that it becomes a we versus they. I believe that we're at a breaking point for the last 9 years of administrative and board disrespect for our educators. What concerns me is that many of the things that have been described at this podium have been discussed in our meetings. Reduction of testing, start times, recess, professional development, and the list goes on and on. I have faith in the board members that I sit next to, as well as I have faith in each of you, that we will do the right thing and not even need it be part of a contract. I won't make a promise, but I will tell you with all my heart and an ethically based background that we will work diligently, with care, with love, and concern for our community. I was born here and I will die here. And for once, we need to come together as a team, as a whole district. And that is not occurring. And that has caused me to lose sleep and lose weight over the course of the last 2 weeks. So what I'm asking for you is to keep doing the jobs that you are doing, which I will always appreciate, and leave it to us and trust us that we will do the right thing.
Mr. Richardson.
Just a couple of quick comments. I think as what John was saying, that we really do, our discussions are often revolve around the fact that we understand that with a lot of mandates coming from the state and with a lot of kind of the impositions on teachers, especially in classroom time, is what can we do as a board from policy and what can we do to help lighten the load of teachers and to make sure that all of our teachers' time is more efficient. I think we've heard that a lot today, and from many of our principals and teachers that we talk with, that we need to look at those things, and we have been, and we will look at those things as we move forward. The fact of the matter is that the resources are what they are, and we wish that they were different. We wish that we could give more money. We wish that there was more there. We have, as been stated, we have deferred maintenance on all of our buildings. We've been barely getting by on many, from every spectrum of the delivery of education. It's very challenging budget times for our district. And we have to look at all angles, and we understand the amount of hard work that goes into teaching our students and to give them a world-class education. But the dollars that are there are the dollars that are there, and we're doing our best to work with what's there. And that's why I'll be supporting the resolution, and we'll continue to work together to find ways to reduce workloads and to make the teaching profession and your jobs more effective and less redundant. And the data entry that goes along with those things and the testing is to make sure that we're doing our very best to give you the most ideal circumstance to work in, and working in future years to continue to increase, as much as is allowable by our budget. And we appreciate all that is done. Thank you.
Mr. Hall.
I want to thank each and every one, and this is a sincere thanks. I think even in the short time that I've been around, I think that I have proved that my loyalties and my values, and I value all the teachers in this district and the administrators, because you're the soldiers on the ground. You were who I spoke to when we first raised the issue of when you got a racehorse, you don't tie him to a fence post. We have consistently began to talk about how do we minimize the clerical load and the additional load that you have absorbed so far, and took you away from instructional time. I don't have the answers to that, but I do have the ability to ask those questions and bring them forward. We have laid out the preliminary formula for an executive advisory committee that would involve in the vision teachers on this committee, principals, I don't know how it's structured, community members, board member or members, with no one having more representatives than the other, to come together and talk about this in a realistic fashion that represent elementary schools, middle schools, and the high schools, so that we get the picture across the view. I'm not going to insult you by sitting here and telling you that I know what you do. I don't know all of what you do, but I hear what you're saying. And I see enough of the evidence of those things, of what you say, to know that it's happening. Every person up here, and I'm honored to sit up here with them, hears that too. But what I don't hear, well, let me back up just a minute. When I first came in, we began talking, all of us, about the drastic need for a change of culture. It's a new time today. It's a new economy. It's new challenges that we face. And we have dedicated many, many discussions to culture. And it's not just culture at the board, it's culture with collaboration, with everybody having a seat at the table. And what made me sad, John alluded to it, Mr. Hafley alluded to it a little bit ago, was when I was told that I could buy culture. You can't buy culture. You can't. But I believe in each and every one of our educators, each and every one of you out there. And I believe that we need to reform this, and we need to change it. And I don't know what all that looks like, but we can't keep going down this same path, financially, operationally, or institutionally, or we won't be here from any of those things. We have a difficult decision. We had a difficult decision. And as administrators, we have to weigh a lot of things. None of us take them lightly. None of us. But we didn't want to choose the alternative and say, we're going to freeze everything this year so that we can get out of deficit spending. We could have done that. We chose not to. And that's the right decision, to choose not to. I want, you want this district to rise to everything it can be, to be the educational standard for the state of Colorado, and it can be. We want this to be the biggest community asset that the city of Greeley has, and Evans has, so that people want to move here to put their kids in school. You're the professionals that can make that happen. We've got to get you the tools. And we've committed to try to do that to the very best that we can. But we have to weigh, we have to take into account the fiduciary responsibility of running for the taxpayers' dollars. So I appreciate each and every one of you being here. I appreciate each and every email that I received. I greatly appreciate the time and the effort of the people that stood up here and talked to us tonight, the teachers. And I can promise you, we're going to do away with that structure where people are afraid for retribution to speak. I honor you for the ones to step up here in front of that microphone. That's not hollow words. But to the end of it, and my old country boy self got to rambling, or my sales self, and I apologize. But I will be voting in support of this resolution for all of those reasons. Not because I'm against teachers, but because I'm for teachers, and I want this organization to grow and be sustainable and go on into the future. Thank you.
Mr. Hall. I guess it comes to me, and you'll forgive me for trying to use maybe a visual display, and I'd like to offer this large piece of yellow paper as the object in your mind. This is a dollar bill. This is the dollar bill that the Boulder School District gets. This is the dollar bill that Cherry Creek gets. I don't have a big enough bill to show the Aspen District, so let's just go with those two. This is the bill with which a school district in one of those schools is able to respond to something like a $300,000 utility bill at one of our high schools. This is the bill that will pay for $4 million worth of bus transportation on some of our antique buses that we're trying to lovingly keep together with the staff involved. I'd like to point out that this is the size of the bill, the dollar bill, that our district gets because of the complications built into the state funding system. That will mean that those same costs are met by our district, and the responsibility to pay our employees and our utilities are still on the plate. But you can see we're underarmed with respect to the ability to meet all of those obligations and expectations. In not going to a freeze, a zero increase, which would have, as others have said, put us in a better position financially, we felt that was the wrong message to send to the people we count on and whose work we are in awe of, frankly. And so our challenge has been to focus on where can these dollars go and how long can we work with the district's employees to assert that these dollars will meet all of our needs. I'm pleased that we've agreed in part of this contract to participate in a basic strategy session, a training encouraged by the union and accepted in this contract by the administration, to find a way to work common language toward a discussion to preempt some of this pro-con, us-them atmosphere. I think this is a first step. We have tried to indicate from the board on a number of levels our intent to continue to sew together and not pull apart the employees that we so desperately count on, to complete the promise to the kids in our school district of the best teaching that they can get. One other factor that I know is going to be of some, but maybe not overwhelming interest to people, and that is a question that I'll ask directly to Mr. Eads, if you don't mind, Mr. Eads. This is a retroactive payment that is from the beginning of the school year, despite our delay in coming to this agreement.
That's correct. The motion on the resolution before the board acts upon the entire contract year, so all the raises, benefits, and provisions would be retroactive to the beginning of this year.
So I believe we've had a motion. Is this true? And a second or no? So at this point, I will ask for a roll call, please, Ms. Brea.
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mr. Richardson?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
And the motion carries 7-0.
Thank you all for being here. I appreciate your time and your attention.